Hey everybody, Justin Watching Movies here with a ranking video for all 9 Wes Anderson films. Wes Anderson has recently released his new film, Isle of Dogs, and I previously reviewed each and every one of Wes Anderson films with some really awesome YouTubers. That was a lot of fun. If you guys would like to check out those videos, I'll put a link down below for each one of those videos. And honestly, this was a really hard list to compile because I really adore Wes Anderson as a director. He's very unique and quirky. And so putting these movies from worst to best was really hard because I love each one of these films. But we have to put these from worst to best. Now, none of these films are bad films. I think each one of these are good in its own way, but we do have to have a worst list. So before we get this started, make sure to leave your list down below for all 9 Wes Anderson films and how you would rank them. So let's get this list started with number 9, The Darjeeling Limited. Wes Anderson creates something different. I feel like at his point in this career with the Darjeeling Limited, he wanted to do things a little differently, but still have his craft into this movie. And while this is a really endearing movie with really great chemistry between Owen Wilson, Jason Schwartzman, and Adrien Brody, I do think that each one of them brought something different to the table. It almost feels like it's 3 different movies put into one. Each of the third acts feel completely different than the previous act, and the tone also shifts a little throughout as well. But I do think this movie is very gorgeous to look at, and I do like the chemistry, and the acting is really great. But when it comes down to it, when I was watching the movie, I couldn't help but think that this was almost 3 separate stories put into one. But it still manages to work, but it is the least memorable Wes Anderson film. Coming in at number 8, and it's going to be a shocker for a lot of people because a lot of people really enjoy this movie, and that is Rushmore. Jason Schwartzman plays a very childish character, but also a little mature at times. And it pairs nicely with Bill Murray's character, who has reached a point in his life where he wants to do something a little different. And they're both trying to fight for the love of a teacher, and I really enjoy watching them trying to duke it out and trying to one-up each other as well. But I also like the moments of Jason Schwartzman really trying to do a lot of things in his school. He's the guy that tries to do everything involved with his school, and I really like those moments. The love triangle leads to a really fun feud between the 3 of them. It pains me to put this movie at number 8, but all of the other films are just a little better. Coming in at number 7 is The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, which also starred Bill Murray. While this is not a bad film, it feels like a film that he's done before. He has these similar themes of a dad figure that's not there for their child, and we had that in Rushmore, we had that in the Royal Tenenbaums, and now we are once having that again with The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. And I feel like that point in this movie and in his career, it kind of felt like it was been done before and kind of worn out. But I still really admire The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. It's one of his best looking films, especially a lot of the underwater scenes. And a lot of his dry humor really shines in this movie. I laugh a lot throughout this movie. And this movie has a large cast with Willem Dafoe and Bill Murray as well, and a lot of other people like Cate Blanchett. And each one of them adds something different to the movie. But at this point in his career, I felt like he was running out of steam and he needed to do something a little different. Coming in at number 6 is The Grand Budapest Hotel, which is the first film that was nominated for Best Picture, and he was also nominated for Best Director, but he should have got this way earlier in his career. The Grand Budapest Hotel boasts some really great performances, and it's not afraid to be a sad but whimsical movie as well. There's a lot of funny moments in here, a lot of great one-liners, but I felt like he was doing something in a different direction when he created the Grand Budapest Hotel, but also keeping his craft and style intact. Sometimes this movie can be a little melancholy, but also a little witty at times, and I felt like he balanced both of those tones very well. Honestly, The Grand Budapest Hotel is one of my favorite films to look at from Wes Anderson. I love how everything's just centered in frame, and the colors really pop in this movie. Coming at number 5 is Bottle Rocket, which was the first film that was directed by Wes Anderson, and this is a very quirky film. And he didn't get into his craft as much in Bottle Rocket as compared to the Grand Budapest Hotel or Moonrise Kingdom. This was a very tamed Wes Anderson film, and he was just really understanding his craft. But this was also written by Wes Anderson, and Owen Wilson as well. And this movie stars Owen Wilson and Luke Wilson, who are on the run, and they stop at a motel and find love. And even though this movie has a halt in the middle and they kind of detour a little bit, I do admire how the characters kind of run this film. Wes Anderson gives enough direction to these characters, but allows for these characters to kind of take its own path and kind of stray away from what the movie had started out to be. I think the chemistry, the jokes, the directing, the writing, everything about this movie is top notch, and it is a great first film from this unique director. Coming in at number 4 is Isle of Dogs, which is his newest film, and this movie has some really great stop animation moments, and I just was awe of the details that went into this movie and the effort going into creating this world and this trash island where all these dogs are living. And the voice cast for these dogs, from Bill Murray to Edward Norton to Jeff Goldblum, each one of them portrays a dog differently, and I was so happy with the voice cast and how each one of them brought their quirks as an actor to this dog. I also admired the storyline. It was touching at times about a young boy who had lost his dog and was trying to find him on Trash Island, but also built up a companionship with the other dogs on this island. And I love the growth from Bryan Cranston's dog. Yes, he was a stern dog and didn't feel the need to have a master, and I love the progression of his character. This is a beautiful film to look at. It's really funny, and I love the dogs in here, and the story progressed so well. Coming in at number 3 is the fantastic Mr. Fox, and at this point in his career, he really revitalized himself and did his first stop animated movie. And this is actually the first time that he adapted someone else's work. Usually he'd work with Owen Wilson on making a film, but this is the first time that he took someone's work and made it his own. It's amazing that he could make this stop animated movie and still have all the qualities of a typical Wes Anderson film. Everything's in frame, we have quick whips, we have things that zoom in, we have a lot of maps. Everything that you would expect from a Wes Anderson film is in this movie as well. And this movie kind of goes back to the Royal Tenenbaums and Rushmore and the Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. They have that kind of father figure that, isn't always there for the kid. But this one is not as overbearing as it was in the Royal Tenenbaums or the Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. With that, this movie does feel fresh and daring, but also typical of a Wes Anderson film. And all these little woodland creatures are sweet, and I think the voice acting in here is great from George Clooney and Meryl Streep as well. I really admired the progression of the story and how some of the moments actually felt thrilling and suspenseful. It is easily one of the most entertaining Wes Anderson films. Coming in at number 2 is The Royal Tenenbaums, which was released in early 2000s and had a large cast led by the great Gene Hackman. This is another story of a father who isn't there. It seems to be a theme of Wes Anderson films. But this story is about Gene Hackman and how his kids have kind of drifted apart from each other throughout the years, but he wants to re-enter their lives and tells them that he is dying to use that to get involved with his family once again. We have other people in this movie like Ben Stiller, Gwyneth Paltrow, Luke Wilson, amongst many other people. And I feel like Royal Tenenbaums is the first definite Wes Anderson film. We had Rushmore and Bottle Rocket previously, and they had some of his quirks, but the Royal Tenenbaums, I feel, is the film that started it all for Wes Anderson. All of his different quirks and techniques on making a film, it really shined in this movie. I love the directing in this movie. I love Alec Baldwin's narration for this movie. The themes for this film really play nicely in here, and the acting is top notch. It is a great film to look at, and Wes Anderson does a terrific job directing this film, but is not as good as my favorite Wes Anderson film. So coming in at number 1 is Moonrise Kingdom. Moonrise Kingdom is the first Wes Anderson film I had seen. It's the first film I have seen in theaters. I have only seen 3 in theaters, but it is my favorite Wes Anderson film. I love everything about Moonrise Kingdom, from the way it looks, from his quirkiness, to the acting, to the story. Everything about this movie is touching and sweet. It is about 2 kids who run off from their New England home to live in the wilderness together. And then we have a search party that is led by the parents to try to find their kids. And I love how Wes Anderson directs these young kids, but allows enough for these kids to kind of do things on their own and lead their own story as well. Has everything that you would expect from a Wes Anderson film. A bunch of maps that are in centered frame, bunch of quick whips, zooms, everything you expect from Wes Anderson film is here in full force. Wes Anderson makes a rich and vibrant movie of first love, and it never loses sight of its message. So there you guys have it, all of the Wes Anderson films ranked worst to best. Now, none of these films are bad. Wes Anderson is one of my favorite directors, and he has directed a category of just great films, and I can't wait to see what he does next. So how would you rank all 9 Wes Anderson films from worst to best? Thank you to all of the awesome YouTubers that had been on my channel to review each one of the Wes Anderson films. I'd like to give a shout out to Sean Chandler Talks About. We had Screen Crawlers. We had the Silver Screen Analysis. We had Rachel Reviews. We had Ryan O'Toole. We had Scott Sullivan. And we also had The Real Talk on my channel to talk about these movies. So thank you to each and every one of them for being on my channel to talk about these movies. It was a great time talking about these Wes Anderson films. Make sure to go over to their channel, subscribe to them. They are awesome, and I'm so happy that they joined me on my channel. So once again, leave your thoughts on Wes Anderson films down below. You guys are the best as always. This is Just Watch Movies, and you guys stay classy, YouTube.